Hey everybody, this is Dave Kilby, President of W.A.C.E, and I welcome you to our 8th webinar of our 10-part 2020 Chamber Resilience Series. Today's topic is going to focus on membership recruitment and retention in a down economy. Let me explain our format. We have 3 top-notch presenters. Each of them will have approximately 15 minutes, and then we'll have some time at the end for Q&A. I want to remind you at the bottom of your screen, the Q&A icon. Please use that to send your questions in. I'll triage the questions and ask them of the panelists. If you want to direct it to a specific panelist, that's okay too. We would go ahead and accept that as well. PowerPoints for today have already been posted on the W.A.C.E website in the members only section. So I encourage you to go there. We are recording today's webinar, and a link will be sent to the person who registered for the webinar so that you could share that with others on your team. So let's get started. Looking forward to this. Our first presenter is J.P. Morey. J.P. is the founder and president of the Morey Company. His career within the association space has spanned more than 25 years. He launched the Morey Company in 2010. He also is one of my favorite authors, a book that y'all should have, Association Hustle. He published that in 2019. Please get your hands on that. It's full of great info. Also in JP's background, he prior to forming the Morey Company, he was a senior vice president for the U.S. Chamber. And JP, I don't know if I told you this, but you were on our one of our May podcasts, W.A.C.E podcast, episode 45, one of our most popular podcasts ever. So thank you for joining us. J.P. Morey, it's all yours.
Dave, great to be with you, and I'm so pleased to be with my friends in the Chamber of Commerce community. I'm thrilled about, kind of giving you a little bit of context about what we're seeing in membership sales and retention, and kind of teeing things up, frankly, for Jill and Katie a little bit to tell you about their real life experiences. Here's kind of what I'm going to cover, because I think this is one of the best membership eras in history that we're about to go into. I want to show you a little bit of pre-pandemic data around membership. I want to talk about some things and trends we're seeing in renewal and recruitment. And then I've got some membership sales cycle data that may be really interesting to you, that compares pre-pandemic and kind of during this pandemic era that we've been in, and what the sales cycles look like. It's pretty interesting stuff. Just to give you a little bit of context, my company is out in the field selling memberships and sponsorships for a variety of different organizations, including some state organizations. So some of these observations are going to be from my sales team, and what they're telling me is working, and I'm going to give you some examples of those. So let's tee it up by saying, hey, even before we went into this is membership data from 2019. I like to always reference my friends at Marketing General and their membership study. Hey, even before this was happening, there were only about 46% of associations were reporting that they had more members than they did in the previous year. So more than half of all associations and organizations were reporting that they were either in decline or had flat membership numbers. And it's almost as reflective in the new member acquisition. So 47% were saying, hey, we're recruiting more members than we were in the previous year. So even before we went into this unprecedented era, we had organizations that were frankly relatively flat. Now, we were renewing at a pretty high level. In fact, this membership study had membership retention at about 90%, which I think, in terms of remembering looking at this data over the years, that's about as high as it's ever been. I would anticipate, if I was budgeting and developing scenarios, that membership retention could be off at least another 10% compared to the previous year if I was budgeting. So I think we're getting ready to go into an era that if you aren't pursuant, that membership acquisition is going to be difficult and retention is probably going to be less than before. But that's not the type of organizations that you are. And in fact, I think if we structure it the right way, is that membership is coming our way, friends. Because if you look at this same study, it talks about why people are joining. Okay, they want to connect with people. They want to connect with business colleagues. They want to learn from them. They want to get information about maybe PPP loan forgiveness or all those kinds of things that we're starting to talk about in our organizations right now. And they want to support advocacy. Folks, if we haven't learned in the last several months that elections and government relations activity is important, then we're in the wrong business. So advocacy combined with learning and connecting with people is the reason why people join. And my sense is that many of your organizations are doing all three of these things in an unprecedented way. So I think the game is coming to us. Now, here's what I see in terms of overall trends. One is we've been delivering value in a variety of different formats. We're no longer, and we're forced to not rely on the in-person events. So we're doing Zoom calls, we're conducting webinars like we did now. You know, Dave's already had a podcast. I've had 250 episodes, and organizations are starting to embrace this kind of value delivery in a variety of different ways. But we also see, especially in chambers and membership in business organizations, that we're in a K recovery. And this may affect the way and the segments that we may want to put our emphasis on renewal or recruitment. Some businesses and industries are doing well, some organizations aren't, and in fact, we also see this geographically. Small businesses, however, need the resources that you've been delivering to them. They need survival tools on how to keep their business open or how to open it for the first time, how to survive, and the importance of advocacy connected to that is demonstrated through the PPP loan program as an example. Okay, so this is all happening, and actually it's an advantage for us. Surprisingly, I also am seeing where organizations are looking at membership modernization. They're restructuring dues levels. They're looking at their value proposition. They're introducing new membership categories because, in fact, what they're starting to see is more people from a number of different business segments are starting to get their content and participate. I also think that mergers and acquisitions are going to continue to happen, not only in our businesses, but among our associations. Right now, I could join, as an example, in my business, I could join 3 different chambers of commerce locally. I think the organizations that are just demonstrating value and participating and bringing people toward them, either in their renewal process or in recruitment, are going to flourish, and businesses are going to start to make decisions. There will be winners and losers. So I want all of you all to be winners in that format. The virtual meeting trends are going to absolutely continue, and that's not all bad, because you know why? We're connecting with more people and more business leaders than we probably ever have before, than would ever show up for our in-person events. We're also collecting better data. We know what kind of content resonates. And I think here's where the chamber network is so valuable. Regional and local organizations are going to be in a position of strength because of the lack of maybe business travel. Your ability to connect people locally is going to be absolutely essential. And if you've got a federation where you've got national, state, and local organizations in a very comprehensive value proposition, holy mackerel, you're going to be in great shape. I'll give you a story. National Sandstone and Gravel Association CEO calls me. Says, I had a member give me a ring the other day. He's been a member for like 15 years. Small operator in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He said, you know, I've kind of been a reluctant renewal over the last several years. You know, I don't go to the annual meeting, don't have time. I'm a small operator, don't have a lot of time to spend outside of the business. I said, he said, since the pandemic began, I've been participating in your Zoom calls. I've been getting more information than ever. And now I'm not only renewing, but I'm also going to participate in the pack. So, and this is an example of how we're reaching people that may have been, you know, less than enthusiastic renewals. And now, because of what you're demonstrating, are going to participate in an unprecedented way. Here are some ideas around renewal and engagement, or food for thought, that I'm seeing as I'm teeing up Jill and Katie. Hey, congratulations if your renewal rate or your renewal program was based on a calendar year and you renewed in the first quarter, because you got their money before this all happened. But my sense is they're evaluating next year right now and have been for the last several months. So they're like I said before, they're deciding which organizations they're going to renew with. And by launching some of these new programs, you've been demonstrating value like you've never done. So this is a great opportunity for renewal and engagement for you. But renewal, in my sense, is going to be much more than an invoicing process next year. And I'll tell you a quick story around that in just a moment. My question is, can we keep up the pace? And are there programs that through all of this that you've been doing are no longer relevant, that really need to stop happening? Okay, I think this is the time to evaluate those things right now. Because my sense is you've been connecting with more people than you ever have by all the information you've been delivering, all the insights, and how it affects their business. So here's a story for you regarding the invoicing process in the American Coatings Association. Now they're national, right? They're paint companies. We've been recruiting for them, oh gosh, for 7 years. This year, however, they said, hey, JP, let's have a conversation, because what we believe is we need a consistent ongoing renewal program that's much more intensive than just sending out a newsletter every week and then invoicing at the end of the year and informing them of the upcoming expo or meeting that they could attend. It needs to be much more intentional. So what we've designed is a month-by-month member value showcase that uses email, social media, and like a webinar demo of that membership value. It's happening on a monthly basis. We're also doing a first ever membership study. So this is a big national association that's going, gosh, guys, we're not going to make some assumptions that people are going to renew anymore. So what we're entering into here is a membership development year. And development is renewal, onboarding, engagement, and recruitment. And they're all blended into an entire program, in my view. So let's talk about recruitment for a moment before I turn it over to my friends. So if we're doing all this work in the recruitment, so if we're doing all this work and holding these calls and bringing people to us and they're participating and they're listening in, oh my goodness, make sure that you're collecting their data. Because these are now the people that we're going to either renew or we're going to convert into new members. You've got to come to the strategic decision that goes something like this. Hey, listen, we've demonstrated value. We've delivered specialized information. We've been advocating before our local and our national leadership. Why do we wait to recruit in a full bore way? One thing that I've learned over the last 20 years in business development is don't say no for someone else. Don't assume that they're, hey, you know what, business isn't good for them and I've heard it, so I'm not going to say no. I'm going to say no for them. I'm not even going to ask. Don't do that. Now is the time that you've demonstrated the best of your organization. And what I also see is many non-members, you've got that business down the street, and I know the person. It's a man or a lady that runs that shop and they've never joined before. And they don't believe it. But now what I'm seeing is we've got groups that are going for the first time saying, wow, all right, now I get what y'all do, because I've seen what's been happening and I've been watching and I've been participating and I've been downloading some of the information that you've offered. One other thought on this, relationship with your sponsors. And I know you're talking in the next webinar, I think next month, about, non-dues revenue or optimizing your revenue streams. Here's what I'm saying. Your sponsorship group are no longer the folks that are just underwriting the coffee and the Danish. They're now your business partners, because we can't rely on that non-dues event revenue like we used to. They can be content deliverers, they can be speakers, they can support you in a much different way, and we've got to treat them like business partners. A story on recruitment is to your right. There's a little infographic here where the National Waste Recycling Association did an infographic about all the things that we've done in the first 30 days of the pandemic. And you can see a lot of this is advocacy oriented. 2,000 communications to the government about, frankly, making their businesses essential. So we took that infographic and we sent it to their prospects. And we recruited more members during the pandemic than we did prior to that, because people could see what was really going on. And let me talk about membership sales cycle just for a moment. Really quickly, here's what we're seeing. There's a myth out there that says, oh, membership's a long sales cycle and it can take a long time. Actually, no. The people that say no take a long time to get no for an answer. What we're seeing, especially for small groups with limited bandwidth, that if you can surge and sell for a short period of time, let's say less than 45 days, 60% of the membership sales that say yes, do so in a short time frame, less than 45 days. So go for it quick and then move on. To reemphasize that, I want to pull some numbers for you from our own data, membership sales data pre and post COVID. Prior to COVID, we were closing the average membership in about 50 days, and it took about 8 calls or contacts or emails to get it done. During this era, it's 33 days and 7 contacts. Why? Because people understand how valuable you are. You have to go ask them now, because they're more likely to say yes, and they're more likely to say it quicker than before. As I think Katie or Jill are getting ready, I want to tee you up and say, hey, I'd be delighted to chat with you at any time about these things. Here's my contact information with my mobile phone. Send me a text or give me a call. Dave, pleased to be with you. Hope we teed up a good conversation.
JP, fantastic. I could think of no better leadoff batter than to have you leading off this conversation during this webinar, giving us the 30,000 feet and the trends, and you've been at this a long, long time, and we really, really appreciate you being with us. Now we're going to take this to Main Street, folks. We're going to take this to Chico, California, and we have Katie Toma with us. Katie is the president and CEO of the Chico Chamber and Visitor Center. Katie's a longtime Chico resident, and she is, prior to being in the chamber work, her past roles have included being the executive director of the Jesus Center and the California State University Chico Research Foundation. She also has 25 years of experience in local leadership roles for regional banks. She is a proud member of Chico Rotary Club and a 2-time Paul Harris Fellow. Katie, thanks so much for joining us and sharing your story. What's going on in Chico? We ready to go, Katie? Might have to unmute yourself.
Of course I can. Oh, gosh. You know,
slideshow from the beginning. There we go.
How many times do we do this and still get messed up, right? So thanks for having me. And I just want to say that I don't think anything we've done is magical, but I want to share with you what we've done and how we ended up with a bunch of new members. So I just want to start with a little context about our town. We're in Northern California. We're 90 miles north of Sacramento. There is Northern California north of the Bay Area. Sometimes people don't think that. We sit at the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains. Our population is 112,000. We're ag. We have a California State University with 17,000 students. We also have a community college. Medium home price is $450,000. We're known for our trees, Sierra Nevada beer, and being friendly. So it's all about relationships, and I think it's always about relationships. So we've had a lot of opportunities to build relationships with stakeholders in Butte County. We had an Oroville Dam, the Oroville Dam crisis. So we had a cracked dam, and there's a picture there on the left, in February of 2017. And we received about 30,000 people into Chico, which is north of Oroville, about 20 miles. And we really got to know folks quickly through that. Then we had the campfire on November 8th, 2018, where Chico's population grew by 20,000 overnight. That was really significant. 83 lives were lost in that fire. It just decimated the town of Paradise. The picture in the middle is taken from the roof of a building in Chico looking east to the fire. So it was catastrophic, to say the least. And then, of course, we had another opportunity to build relationships, and that's with COVID. When the governor declared a shelter in place in March of 2020, what are we going to do? And then we have another fire that's actually burning right now called the North Complex fire. Started in August. It's still burning. It's about 85% contained as of this morning. So with all of that, we all got to know each other quickly and intimately, meeting all the time. So when COVID hit and the governor put out his order, we locked the doors and we went home. And it's like, what are we going to do? So we convened at the virtual table, and that was via Zoom. And, what's Zoom? How do you do it? How do you get an account? We have each other's cell phones. So it was very easy to quickly gather. And at that virtual table were county officials, city officials, the university, the local community college, our local EDC, workforce development agencies, and then other chamber leaders in the county. So we have 3 other chambers in Butte County. So we had discussions about what are our immediate needs, understanding the stay-at-home order. So some of those things were like, what's an essential worker? And there was lots of that. And of course, there was lots of wiggle room because these businesses could see that they were going to die if they weren't an essential worker. And then with those stakeholders, it was like, who's doing what? So in the meantime, the Chico Chamber's Executive Committee, which is about 9 people, our total board is around 25. So our Executive Committee met to strategize. And the questions that they asked is, how will the Chico Chamber survive through a pandemic? How can we be relevant? What's our role? And what do we have to offer? So the answer of who we would be is we set out to be the organization. We would be the go-to organization with the most up-to-date information for businesses. And we made the decision that not only would we serve our members, but we would open up and we would serve the entire business community in Chico and the region. So we're the largest town in our county. Our county's population is around 225 or 230,000. So we do make up the lion's share of the county's population. So how would we do this? And well, we'd have to pivot. And I think we're all really sick and tired of that word pivot, but because I do believe it's the most frequently used word in 2020. So we decided we're going to have to pivot. And we knew that it was all about crisis communication, of which we didn't know anything about how to do crisis communication. So we went and we knew that we didn't know. So we hired a crisis communication firm. And I have to let you know that one of the partners of the chamber actually gave us the money to do that. And then we also negotiated a partial trade with the firm who became one of our partners. So that worked out well. So we put a strategic plan together. We did it in 3 days. And then in the meantime, we began to call every single one of our members, which is a little over, at the time, was a little over 500. And we just called and said, hey, how's it going? We're here for you. What are your challenges? What can we do to serve you? So the strategic plan, we started out with identifying 4 areas that were really important to businesses: financial, HR, legal, and customer. And so customer was marketing. How are they going to market to their customers? Are they going to have to pivot? What would that look like? What are the unmet needs that they could fill in our area? And then this was a huge culture shift. And I loved what JP was talking about, how things have changed. We became researchers and not reporters. So we really dug deep for information. So as a longtime banker, the financial part was fairly easy for me. I've done a lot of SBA loans. I did lending only up to like $1 million. So I wasn't like a big time banker, but I worked with small business owners. I understand the culture of a small business owner. I understand their brain. So that was very helpful in getting the financial information out. but there were areas that, you know, I always had a really awesome HR team behind me, and of course attorneys at my beck and call. So we really had to dig deep and get the information out, and we had to find our truth sources and where were we going to get our sources of information, and then we were going to distill, and which is what we do, is we distill the information down to what we think is the most important for our members and for the business community at large. And then we did videos. And so I did a video every Monday and every Friday. And Monday started out with, this is what we're going to do this week. This is what we're going to provide to you. And then on Friday, it was like, hey, how was your week? This is what we did. So it was kind of a repeat of what we're going to do. And of course, there were always things that we're developing, because as you know, just PPP, for example, when that started out, what a mess. There was all this conflict between SBA and the US Treasury, and they kept changing the rules, and Wells Fargo ran out of money. They opened it up Friday afternoon. Wells Fargo was out of money by Saturday night. And so there was just all sorts of challenges. So we stayed really on top of it and provided that information, continue to do so, especially now with the PPP loan forgiveness, which basically the message is now just, you know, sit on the brakes until December, and we'll go from there. And then the other thing that we did is we had a PSA professionally produced, and what it was is, we're here for you. Call us, email us, you know, and it was a very compelling PSA that was written by the crisis communication firm. And because it was a PSA, it was free to run, and the local TV stations, they ran it a lot. Then we also did video interviews with our members who could assist the business community with either their product or service or their experience. So one of the first interviews I did was with a regional banker, the CEO, who was willing to do it. And of course, this is all done on Zoom. You know, nobody knows what they're doing. And so there was a lot of grace. And actually, we have some bloopers that we're going to actually put together for our annual awards dinner. And I knew then when we have these bloopers that I needed to save them. So that was wisdom, I think, on our part. We had some pretty funny ones. But we did those videos, and we continue to do those videos. We met with so bankers, HR, the city of Chico approached us because they wanted to get some messages out, the county as well. So we do those videos. I think, you know, I can do anywhere between 3 and 4 a week. That's kind of gone down to about 2 because we really feel like we've saturated our membership with videos. We also provided PPE. We did 2 curbside mask giveaways. We got a grant from the local foundation that we were able to purchase masks locally. One of our businesses, our members pivoted and started making these fantastic cotton masks. And so we got a grant and we were able to purchase those. And these just were for businesses, not for individuals. It was for businesses for their employees. So we did 2 curbside giveaways, and we ended up giving away 33,000 masks. Our young professional organization came alongside of us and actually did the giveaway out on the street. Lots of cooperation from the city. We closed down the street to traffic. They could only come through the street in front of the chamber. So lots of cooperation. The other thing that we did that I have to say that I think was kind of brilliant, we were answering our phones 7 days a week. My experience with small businesses owners is they don't know if it's Saturday or Wednesday, and especially in a pandemic, they had no idea what day it was. And if it's 3 o'clock on Saturday and they got a question, we want to make sure that we're available to answer that question for them. So we're still doing that. I only get maybe 2 or 3 calls a weekend now, but in the beginning, we were getting a lot of calls. And then just regular communication with our partners. A lot of pick up the phone, which, you know, we don't always do. We kind of gotten out of that, but I'm telling you, the picking up the phone was really good. So the other thing that we did along the way is we have a small team. There are only 3 of us, but caring for our team. So remember, through all of this, we're working from home. We got on Zoom every morning at 8:30, did a check-in, how you doing? And then we'd meet up again at, you know, and we'd set our day, and then we would check back in at 4. you know, how did your day go? You know, you were supposed to do X, Y, and Z, how'd it go? And then we would get information. And as our days were going, especially in contacting our members, we found common themes of what needs were and really sought out to meet those needs. So the results were, because we were pushing out all this information, the media started contacting us. And I did tons of TV and radio interviews, not only local, but nationally. And the Wall Street Journal and the San Francisco Chronicle and the Sacramento Bee. And then, of course, locally, I've done lots of interviews and continue to do so. And then the government. So Butte County reached out to me and asked if I would lead the business sector for establishing reopening guidelines for businesses, along with the executive director of the Paradise Chamber up the hill from us. And so they called on a Thursday afternoon, said, we'd like you to establish guidance for opening, and we need it done by Wednesday. And you need at least to have at least 12 businesses represented. So I cashed in all my credit with friends and colleagues in the community. We worked throughout the weekend. We made our goal. And I'm proud to say that Butte County was the first county in California to reopen. And then businesses were calling us for information, like large businesses, which we kind of would laugh because we were so in such a routine that they knew that we were the ones that had the information. So along the way, businesses began to really see the value that we provided, and we all of a sudden, we have online. You can join online, and we were getting these emails of people that were joining, and just these beautiful messages. Oh, you helped me so much. We really appreciate it. So I have to tell you, since the pandemic has started, we have 43 new members, and of those 43 members, actually 3 of them have become partners. So they're not just basic members, but these are people that are invested in the chamber and they see value in what we're doing. As far as retention goes, we lost one of our legacy partner, which is a top tier partner, which is a gym, understandably, and then 5 members, which are all restaurants, which in California has been a real challenge for restaurants to open. So this is what we've done. One of the things that JP reminded me of that I wanted to mention is that we were still doing advocacy along the way. We were reaching out to all of our elected officials and really appealing to the governor's office on trying to get open. And it, probably like most of you, but in California, it's been a real challenge. So we've been doing a lot of advocacy. We pulled off getting an election guide together. We have 10 council candidates running for our city council. We did an election forum online that turned out really well, surprisingly enough. I was surprised. But another thing that JP said when he was talking about engagement is we do a community development update with the city of Chico each quarter. And even in all of our webinars that we've done, we have had a significant increase of participants because of the ease of Zoom. So that was kind of a surprise to us. So that was good. So that is what happened in Chico, and we're real excited. I mean, we're charged up, we're energized, we're tired for sure. But we're pleasantly surprised. So if anybody has any information, there's my email, my direct line, and I'll be happy to talk to anybody if they have questions.
Katie Toma, thank you so much. Hey, your passion, your energy doesn't show at all in your presentation during this webinar. So I'm kidding. It's all over the place with almost every word that you said. So thank you so much.
Sure.
We are going to go now to Boulder City, Nevada with Jill Lagan, ACE, the president and CEO of the Boulder City, Nevada Chamber of Commerce. Jill is right now, literally in the moving process to her new location that will currently house the Nevada State Welcome Center. On this site, they are also developing a business park that'll house all the outdoor adventure outfitters in one location. She's been in the chamber for 19 years and has lived in Boulder City her entire life. She is a member of the W.A.C.E. Board of Directors. She's a past conference chair and a past vice chair of our board. Jill, welcome. Go for it. Looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you. Grateful to be here with all of you. And today we're going to talk a little bit about membership, money, motivation, and more. Slide, please. So a little overview about Boulder City. Boulder City is home to the Hoover Dam and the O'Callahan-Tillman Expansion Bridge. We have a population of just under 16,000, and the chamber has 440 investors. Every licensed business in Boulder City is a chamber member and future investor. They are listed on our online directory, but that is really where the buck, or unpaid buck in this case, stops. Our chamber investors receive the lion's share of our attention, and we have a tiered due structure for their benefit selection. The chamber operates the Nevada State Welcome Center and is in the midst of building a business park out of retrofitted containers for our Boulder City Adventure Center that will create a one-stop shop for all of our adventure outfitters. This opportunity is magnified by a contract with the bus transportation company that will have 5 runs per day from the Las Vegas Strip to deliver guests with tour reservations, as well as those interested in coming to learn about Boulder City's rich history, whimsical antique shopping, alfresco dining, and spectacular outdoor recreation. We do have a controlled growth ordinance in Boulder City and haven't grown by more than 1% each year in the last 10 years. In fact, in some years we have shrunk. As you can imagine, this leads to a proportionate number of businesses that can be here at any one time, and that number doesn't vary often. We have found that as one business closes, another is usually waiting in the wings for that open real estate. So our open inventory and active listings are relatively low and supply and demand takes over. We are the only municipality in the state of Nevada that has never legalized gaming. Yes, this can hinder our bottom line and tax revenue, but it also creates a lot of interest in family lifestyles. Slide. Are you prepared? When hard times arise, you turn to those who you know will be a support and will be strong enough to help you through the trial. If your community knows your heart has been in the right place and you have truly been working on their behalf prior to the current crisis, then they know you are the key trusted resource to turn to now. When today's panelists were on the phone a couple weeks ago, Dave asked each of us, when COVID-19 hit, you did what? The first thing that came to my mind was that we were prepared to act immediately and effectively because we had planned ahead and we knew what we would be needed to be the guide-on flag for our community, the one they turned to lead. We did what we knew how to do first. We put our developed phone tree to work and called on all of our investors. We showed them we cared and we were willing to help with the things like filling out their PPP and EIDL loan applications and kept them informed as we built relationship capital. We stayed in constant communication with local, county, and state entities, as well as all elected officials. We showed them we are the voice of businesses and we are essential in their efforts to connect with the business community. We put on our masks and we got out to those essential businesses, both members and future members, to show them we were an authority that they could turn to. We have always saved a placeholder on our homepage for a blog window that may not always show content, but is easily accessible if I need to add immediate content and do not have the time to wait for our IT people to be available. In this most recent case, we added the necessary links and information for a simple and quick find of all the info the businesses, officials, and guests to our community needed to know. In the past, we have used this to post video of emergency information such as road closures, weather issues, etc. Our residents know to check that instant message when something is happening in our community. Since the release of the Open for Business, a disaster planning toolkit released by W.A.C.E. in 2001, we have implemented many measures that we had not even thought of or didn't know were possible. We wanted to show the community organizations that through collaboration, we will lead the way by being prepared. Slide. Resources. Who can you, the chamber boss, turn to as a trusted resource? What resources can you find to build and retain your investors? Slide. Chamber Think strategies. We all need mentors. I have mine on speed dial and in quick click links on my home screen. Kyle Sexton has been a wealth of information my entire 20-year career in chamber work. In a W.A.C.E. conference breakout years ago, Kyle said, I grow my membership by being a stronger leader. Bells and whistles went off in my head with this aha moment, and I immediately began working to be the best me I could in order to be the best CEO that investors wanted to follow. In his programs, he talks about curiosity, enlightenment, and commitment. He challenges us to shepherd businesses through the simple curiosity to the enlightenment or education process before they commit to joining our chambers. In doing this, they become aspirational members because they know who they are doing business with and they know why they want to be engaged with our process. The opposing side of this equation would be a transactional member that simply checks the join now box and checks us off his to-do list. Sending him a renewal notice might be pointless, but remember, retention is the goal. And in Retention 101, we say, if they believe, they will be back. Slide. Chambermentor.com. Patrick McGoy of chambermentor.com shared in his August email a great metaphor that ironically he had written back in March of 2019. At that time, he thought it was a great metaphor. It seemed the term of the day was, it went viral, and he shared the following story. If you like to escape by reading books or watching movies, it won't be long before you are absorbed in an apocalyptic plot with a wicked contagion infecting the world. One person infecting 2 people, and those 2 infecting 4, and those 4, I think you get it. The greatest chambers and associations I know are infected with a wicked strain of passionate enthusiasm. One person, hopefully you, the executive, is infecting 2 staff members, and those 2 staff members are infecting 4 businesses, etc. Do we want membership to go viral? If so, we need a wicked contagion of passionate enthusiasm from every staff member, every board member, and every committee member. We need an organization of victors, not victims, for membership to go viral, even in times of trial. Enthusiasm continues to be the great contagion in every successful membership organization. It's the one virus we want to spread. Slide. Membership best practices. Recently, quite a few West Coast chambers had a roundtable on membership that was very effective. I noted some of the best practices to share from that webinar. I apologize that I didn't record where each and every great idea came from to give them proper credit, but still thought that they were worth the share today. Ask for referrals from your current members. Seems like a duh moment, but it works every time. Lower your chamber guardrails and allow more future members to participate in the programs you may be offering. If they see the ROI, you have an aspirational new investor. Set up a cluster Zoom that addresses a specific sector and fine-tune and troubleshoot the concerns of that specific need. Partner with SCORE each quarter for a So You Want to Start a Business meeting that allows prospective entrepreneurs the chance to come and hear how SCORE can and will assist them, as well as introduce them to key leaders within your community that they need to know to be successful, like your community development director, your business license director, the economic development director, and the chamber CEO that made that meeting possible for them to kick off their business idea with a bang. I never leave those meetings without at least 3 new investors and a new handful of business members for our directory. Collect, collaborate, navigate. Be the provider of vetted information that will be useful immediately. Be the host of a crossover networking event on a monthly basis with your neighboring chamber. Tell your story through a matrix of great accomplishments. We have given out 4,500 PPE, or we have helped 45 investors stay in business this quarter. Maybe even, because of your support, we fought for you when regulators were stepping out way too far. You have enough on your plate, so keep it simple and stay with the basics. It simply may not be the right time to start something new that you are not able to manage 110% to success. Slide. In the end, you have to believe in your own worth. Others will then also. My contact information is noted on this final slide, and thank you to all those on the call that have helped me as mentors, idea spreaders, encouragers, and spirit lifters. We all help each other, and that leads to greater membership retention and each of us being stronger leaders.
Jill Lagan, way to go. Appreciate that. And I think you can kind of see a common denominator of all of our presenters. Passion and enthusiasm came through, I think, in every one of our presenters today. I want to remind you of the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. Please send your questions in. We would appreciate that. And I'm going to ask the first question here to all of you, for that matter. How much of growing your membership has to start with you and your own attitude? Anybody want to comment on that? Anyone?
I'll jump in, Dave.
This is Katie.
Oh, sorry. So I know that for us, it has been, obviously I've been with the Chamber a long time, and we know our members. We have intimate relationships with each and every one of them, and that really has probably been the biggest catalyst to us helping them be successful and for us to continue to be successful. Yes, of course it does pertain to our attitude as well. If we're not willing to get out there and make a difference and to try to help them understand that this is not the end of the world, we will make it through, and we will do so together. I think that has everything to do with it, but I do believe that they know that they can trust what we're sharing. And I know that there was a couple times at one point I thought, good scrud, we can't do this. This is not going to work. And I had to kind of slap myself upside the head and realize that's not the attitude that we need. And it's definitely not going to be the one that our community is looking to from a leader to have.
Anyone else want to jump in on the whole attitude comment?
I'll jump in. This is Katie. I of course, it starts with us as the leaders, the CEO of the organization. I'd like to say that I want to start with, what can we do to serve? And as a result of that, you do get sales. You do get an increase in membership because, of course, in our organization, membership is 80% of the budget. We are not driven by events, which has been very helpful for us. We also do our membership on a anniversary date, not like at one time. So since it's spread out over the year, we contact every single member before their invoice goes out. So it is definitely starts at the top, and really getting your team and your board to understand the importance of membership and what does that mean, and what, in our mission. I mean, our mission is to serve the business community, and to be the voice of business. So absolutely starts with us.
Dave, I've got just one quick thing to add, and something that Jill said that really resonated with me, and we've found it to be true in a firsthand basis, is the don't be a victim and gloom and doom. Everybody knows that there are challenges and headwinds in this kind of new dynamic that we're in. But I've got an association that we work with, and they're really good people. But there's so much about, our industry's going down the tubes. If we're not in a new stimulus package, all our members are going out of business and all that. And then I'm trying to turn around and sell membership and sponsorships for a program. Really hard to do. Nobody wants to be, joining an entity that seems like it's losing. And so I really like what Jill had to say in terms of that positive nature and framing the conversation the right way to show that you got motivation and energy behind you.
JP, let's stick with you, and the others can chime in too. But on the whole comment that you made about don't say no for someone else, we've got people out there saying, hey, can I really charge for services during these hard times? And how do I motivate my membership people to pick up the phone and call when businesses aren't doing really well? I think you already started to touch on that a little bit on when you commented about Jill's comment, but can you go a little bit deeper on that? Don't say no for someone else.
Oh, sure. Well, so how might I motivate membership directors? Fire them if they don't do it? I mean, that's their job. I mean, it is their job, right? Or I think it is. And also I think it's from the perspective of, hey, we're out there and making you familiar with all the things that we're doing. I mean, I'm a big fan of not, being kind of a consultative business development operator, not someone that's just calling, smiling and dialing saying, do you want to join the chamber today? It's more about, hey, these are the things that we have that are happening. Looks like you've been interested in them. What does a partnership look like for you? That kind of approach is much different than just a call center kind of atmosphere that I don't advocate for.
So again, it's a little bit back to attitude and belief in the product, and getting out there, making sure that you deliver your value to the person on the other end of the phone.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, I don't know of these businesses. I think they're in the framework where they're probably not doing the work for free. They're not asking for people not to show up at their restaurant or their place of business. Why should we adopt a different perspective? That's my view.
Yeah. Jill or Katie, you want to jump in on any of this?
I will just add that I feel like, one of the big things that we're challenged with is we do have 2 employees, yet on a daily basis, we're working very hard to make sure that from the outside, they would assume there's an army out there working for them. And so we just really want to make sure that we're paying attention to the message that we're communicating, obviously the attitude we're communicating. If membership is hearing, oh my gosh, we can't get it all done and we're so busy, we don't have time, we don't have this, we don't have that, it's going to be really hard for them to believe in the product, like Dave was saying. So for us, it's all smoke and mirrors sometimes, but we just want to make sure that the members feel like there is a team on working on their behalf.
And in our communications, we celebrate, we celebrate, victories and what's happening. So I think that, showing the value of the membership of, JP, you're talking about doom and gloom and so much negativity out there. And I think people are tired, especially now. We're 6 or 7 months in and people are pretty tired, but I think the celebration and the membership and really keeping people motivated, in that way.
Yeah, Katie, you know what? You're totally right, and I think from a bandwidth perspective, I really do appreciate Jill's comments, and I think this is probably a time where we've got to be very intentional about our scheduling and our time allotment and recognition that membership is going to require effort, time, and maybe something will have to fall off the back of the truck because of the priority that membership takes right now, in my opinion.
So let's talk a little bit about relationships, because I think it came up several times during the presentations from maybe even all 3 of you. But so if you're a new exec in town and you haven't had the opportunity to build those relationships. I mean, Katie, you've been in Chico for a long, long time. Jill, you've been in Boulder City your entire life. I mean, you have relationships. And I always say, I've been a believer of brand you for decades. I think in many cases, people are buying you. So how would you start if you were mentoring a new chamber exec on building relationships? What would your starter be for them?
Well, sorry, Katie, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I think, I'm pretty bold, and as you could probably tell, but I think that because as you can see by my career that I've made some interesting things along the way, but it's all about helping. It's all about relationship. It's just inviting yourself to the table and being kind of presumptuous, not being cocky, but presumptuous, because people want to help people. They want to mentor people. They want other people to be successful. So I would just suggest that that if you're new, that you just reach out. You look at the business sectors. You look at who are the shakers and movers in town, and reach out to them and take them for a cup of coffee. I mean, now it's you got to hop on a Zoom interview depending on where it is you live, but. We're not even meeting with people.
I sure hope that people understand that Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I just, they sent a message that my thing was unstable. So I just know that I want to share with people that they don't have to pay for any of these resources in trying to find some of those answers. That between W.A.C.E's online resource and some of the different email blogs and some of the different partners that not only the ones I mentioned today, but others that we learn from at conferences, we learn from, so many of them have a lot of these resources. We don't have to make this stuff up. We don't need to start from scratch. A lot of this is done. You've got mentors in the industry. Everyone on this call, I know, would be happy to help, especially those who are just starting out. I just saw that anonymous attendee had put in the chat box that somebody just starting out in the middle of the pandemic. You know what? It's going to be rough. I would absolutely say that. But the flip side of this is what an opportunity to grow a chamber from kind of the ground up and to be able to find what those best practices are in other chambers and with other chamber leadership, others who have left the industry but are great consultants now. We have so many people to draw from that we don't have to make this stuff up on our own. We've got a lot of free resources and tools at our disposal, and I just feel like this is a really great opportunity for us to really look at those resources and put those into place.
Jill, to echo on that, if I was a staff of one, here's the thing that we've seen. I probably had more individual one-on-one conversations with business owners and leaders in the last 4 months than I did the previous, 14. They're accessible. Some of them are, working from home. I mean, the accessibility right now is high. They're not traveling. They're not going down the street. They're available. I'd double down on outreach, anonymous attendee. Thanks for your question.
So is there anything, Jill and Katie and JP, you can jump in here too, but is there anything that really resonates with a new member? And is it different on what you might be communicating that resonates with somebody that's been a member? What's the selling point?
So for me, it seems like when we're first beginning that initial conversation with a prospect, they really want to know what the benefits are. Can you explain each and every one of the benefits? And so we really spend a lot of time making sure that they understand what those are and that they can customize their packages, that you purchase the package level that you're interested in, that benefits you best. Let me make sure you understand what those are. So it seems like those initial conversations to try to bring somebody new into the fold, they become an investor because they needed those specific items that could really show them. And at the end of that year, we promise them that we will let them know what their ROI is, because we provide them with the dates they received those benefits, so that in their invoice, they receive their feature benefits and when those individual benefits were provided to them with a date. So it makes it real easy for them to want to renew because they can see they got exactly what they paid for. But I will tell you the thing that seems to resonate the most with those that we're retaining and that are renewals, it really is that they've spent that year understanding how much we truly care about making the business community successful. And that interest in us being interested in them seems to be really, in my experience, the number one thing that keeps people coming back. They want to be a part of something successful. They want to be a part of something that is actively trying to make the community better. And so I believe that that's probably our number one thing that resonates.
Katie, real quick.
I'd like to think that our new members, that we're part of their team. So many of our members, our businesses with less than 25 employees. So we're kind of their team. And I think that we've proven that the resources that we've provide are so practical. I mean, it's because they don't have time. They don't have time to advocate. They don't have time to seek out information. So I think that that's what we're finding with all of our new members, that they're seeing value, that we're helping in a very practical manner.
JP, in about 20 seconds or thereabouts, you have a closing statement for everybody?
On that item, absolutely agree with Katie and Jill. I would do two things on recruitment. Tell a story about when someone joined and what happened when they did. Then tell a story in renewal. Hey, this business renewed. Here's why and what's happened since they renewed. Those specific stories really pop, and you probably have a number of them. Make the story real and applicable, and they'll see the value when that happens. Don't make it like, you can't do it off a brochure. You make it off a story that actually really happened with your members, and those I've found to be most successful.
Great point. I'm a big name dropper. I like to drop names to get me in the door so I can talk to people, and I like to drop names telling stories about here's what our successful member said about us. So thank you very much. Thank you to all of our panelists. I appreciate that, all of our presenters. I also want to thank Amanda for handling all the logistics before and during the webinar. We got a couple things coming up I want to remind everybody of. Our awards deadline is coming up on November 6th. Our workforce boot camp coming up, you got to get registered for that. That's coming up October 21, 28, November 4th. We also have our next webinar, going to be November 18th on monetizing your chamber in a non-event world with Kelly Hall and Patrick Ellis. The person who signed up for today's webinar is going to be getting an evaluation survey. Be on the lookout for that. JP Morey, Jill Lagan, Katie Toma, thank you so much for sharing today. This is a topic our people really need to hear about. Words that came to mind for me when I was listening to all of you were embrace change, lead, move quick, or move now. And frankly, as with all of you, your members and your clients, when the value's known, the decision is easy. Thanks so much for being with us, everybody. Take care, stay strong.